Gonna Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Hal Bradley. I would like to ask us, each and every one of you, that if you enjoyed these shows, please hit like, share, and subscribe after you view the show. Thank you very much.
Hey, Hal. Good morning. How are you?
Well, good morning, Pete. Good morning, John. How are you guys
Good
doing
morning.
today?
Terrific.
Great to have you on the show this morning. And first off, I'd like to welcome the entire world to another episode of the Crisis Victory Show. And we're praying that today's message that John's going to be sharing with us will benefit others in regard to the ability to pay things forward as good things occur in our life. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce John. And Pete, stay online today because I'm hoping that you'll interact and give comments to this conversation also. Pete and I are both PTSD survivors from combat-related circumstances that still carry with us through the day of our lives. We've also, as a contractor, is when I experienced mine. Pete was active military. So to make that perfectly clear, this is paying it forward. John, good to see you, my friend. It's been a while since you've been up here in the Pacific Northwest. How's everything going down there in California?
Well, it's great to see you, and things are going very well down here. I'm having a great time. So, in spite of life's challenges, we focus on the good. And when I see your face, that's the good.
I love you too, brother. I was so excited to do this interview with you and Pete today because last week we had a lady on air who was a chiropractor that had gone through a serious accident and event in her life, and how she was able to recover not only physiologically but metaphysically also in her enhanced direction regarding holistic measures of healthcare, psychologically, biologically, and spiritually. And you have been someone that was introduced to her and went through a life-changing experience as a result. Hence the purpose of today's mission and message to the world. So, John, without further ado, I'm going to kind of let you walk people through it and explain the journey, and really anxious to hear it all. Brother, the floor is
Okay,
yours.
terrific. Well, the person that you're speaking of is Dr. Andrea Vitz. We call her Dr. V. And, she's a very, very dear friend, saved my life. And I can't say enough kind things about her and enough about how I admire her strength of character and all that she does for everybody. I happen to be, uh, the beneficiary of her goodwill, and I will always appreciate her for that. But I've seen her do it to scores of people. I'm gonna tell you about the victory and how she was instrumental. But first, I kind of want to describe the crisis, and I want Pete to jump in because he was there really for it all. Pete and I have been close friends, co-workers, comrades. You
Yeah.
name it. We've done it, and we've had to count on each other in ways big and small. And I had experienced a lot of stuff in my life that I'm very proud of, but I was at a point in my life where I was huge, way overweight, unhealthy, all my whatever numbers you can measure, the cholesterol stuff and the pressure and all the things that go wrong with the human body,
Yes.
were going wrong because of my uh, neglect of myself. My, the lifestyle I was leading was not one that you would say is hugely destructive. I didn't have bad substance issues or anything that people experience, and thankfully, I didn't have an illness of that kind of seriousness. But what I did have was I was mired in my own self-doubt. I had kind of been just beaten up by life, and I'm proud to be here with you on this show because
Yes.
I'm first of all, I'm a fan. I'm a subscriber. I've always followed you, and I read your books, and you inspire me in all the ways.
Thank you,
Um,
John. It's my
and
intention.
well, and part of me wanted to say, hey, man, come on, the guests you have on are remarkable, and compared to so many people in your life and both of you, my life's not been all that remarkable in terms of the traumas I've experienced have not been like yours. And so I thought about it, and what I thought was, there are probably a million people like me who
Yes,
are suffering a bunch of little stuff, and it's not big enough that that you think it's serious. And you go, well, I didn't go to war. I wasn't involved in things that were, hugely life catastrophic. I never experienced a fraction of the things that you guys did. But I did experience a lot of the small fraction things that I think a lot of people are going through.
exactly.
And
Exactly why I
yeah,
wanted you on the show, because that's exactly the market that we're trying to reach right now with regard to people that live normal day-to-day lives. However, they have a complexity of many, many factions that come in of a negative quality into their life. So
yeah.
I'm just so glad that you bring it to that point, John, because that's exactly what we're reaching out for. Thank you.
Well, and when I met you, Dr. Bradley, we had an immediate connection, and then I was
Yes.
immediately moved by your hospitality, your generosity. And that wasn't to say that, you did anything enormous, but you cooked us a meal and you did it. And we just sat down and we had a conversation with such sincerity and so
Yes.
much, just emotion behind our meeting that it was an event in my life. And
And mine too, John. I had the exact same emotions and feelings meeting you, being there with you and Pete that day is a memory that I cherish and keep reviving it daily because it's wonderful to meet good people in life. We all struggle with things. We all go
that's right.
through these episodes, but what I love about you is you have positive energy, and no matter what you're confronted with, be it big or small, that doesn't matter. The important thing is how we approach it, how we attack it if it's not
Well,
meant to be with us, and then how we move on with
that's
it
right.
and pay it forward.
And pay it forward. Yeah. Because
Yeah,
I think part of the responsibility of having such a great life, and man, I have a fantastic life.
yeah, you do.
Um, and part of that responsibility is just to show others that, hey, there's some light. When you feel like you're in the darkness, just look toward the light and keep going.
Yes.
So I'll tell you what happened. Pete and I had been, we had been working as handyman, and we were running a pretty successful handyman business that, we had a great chemistry for how we worked, and we got a lot of things done, and we helped a lot of people out. But we were beating ourselves into the ground. And
Yeah.
at the
Peace nodding.
time, yeah, I was with another friend who threw out his back. It was about 9 o'clock in the morning, and we were on a job site, and I don't know what he did, but suddenly he couldn't walk, and he said, I need you to take me to my chiropractor." So this was a big, strong, able-bodied guy who needed to go to his chiropractor. So we dragged him into the truck and drove him over to what I thought looked like a muffler shop. It didn't look like a chiropractic office. It didn't look like a medical office at all. And when we
Interesting.
walked in the door, didn't look like a waiting room. It was a room in a light industrial complex, much like you'd see in the muffler shop. And it had a chiropractic treatment table and a desk in the same room. So this woman came out in workout gear, essentially, threw him on the table and started manipulating him. And I was so fascinated. First of all, she's physically beautiful. She's a stunning specimen of a human being, and she's strong and jacked. So when she walked in, I thought, man, this woman is gonna manipulate this big, strong guy. And very quickly, I realized, yes, she is. She's gonna do whatever she wants. And she started twisting him and cracking him. And so I'm in the room, which I thought at first was awkward because I've never, been in the treatment room with somebody getting their spine adjusted. But so we just started making small talk while she was adjusting him. And she's just a wonderfully fascinating woman. She told me at the time that she was writing a book, and that her book was called The You You've Never Met. And it was about her experience. And she started telling me about her experience. And I thought, wow, this is absolutely remarkable. So at the end of it all, my friend, first of all, she treated him for about close to an hour.
Yes.
And I had never seen a chiropractic treatment that lasted an hour, nor had I ever seen one that was so effective. He got up from the treatment table and we walked right out of there.
Wow.
And
Wow.
I took a business card with me. And then the next time I sneezed in the shower and threw my back out, I called her and she fixed me. And she'd fix me about once or twice a month for about the next 10 months. Now, separate to that, in this weird industrial space, I asked her, this doesn't look like a medical facility to me. What are you doing here? And she said, well, my husband has a facility next door where he trains power lifters. So I was fascinated by that. And she said, yeah, you can go over and meet him. So I went over and I met him. His name is Ted O'Neill. He is the best strength coach in the world, as far as I'm concerned. And as far as results are concerned, he's got more elite level power lifters than anybody else alive.
Wow. Well, that's a
And
statement.
yeah, and when I walked over to his facility, first of all, let's call it a gym. It's much different than that, but there are weight machines and barbells and dumbbells and racks and stuff there. So I walked in and I saw all this gear. The first thing that I noticed was everybody who was in there was really serious, and there was not a mirror in the whole place. So nobody looked that was dressed like a fitness model. Nobody was, everybody just had their workout gear in and they were getting it in and they were serious, but there was not a mirror in the whole place, which I thought was unusual because there's always mirrors in a gym. So you can look at
Yes.
yourself and see what you're doing. But I met uh, Coach Ted O'Neill and, we made small talk, but he had things to do. So he was very curt, which I thought, well, that's perfect for a guy his size because he was a mountain of a man and a
Wow.
competitive power lifter himself. So fast forward, Dr. V's been treating me on and off again once or twice a month for about 10 months. And at some point, let me throw in, by the way, that at the time I weighed 278 pounds.
Boy, you're a big boy,
I
man.
was a big boy. Yeah, I'm about 5'8". So and by 5'8", I mean probably 5'7". But let's call it 5'8". That's what's
Yeah.
on my
Yeah.
driver's license. Um, anyway, but yeah, was carrying around a lot, and I didn't really see that for what it was, and that's one of the things that Dr. V revealed to me. But at one point, about 10 months into it, she said to me very candidly, as she was fixing my back once again, he said, we wouldn't have to do this so often if you were strong.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it got me right in the heart. So I said,
Yeah.
okay, Dr.
I,
V, look,
I caught the
I know what you're
pause. I
saying.
hear you. Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
You just want me to go next door and see your husband. And she said, well, I'll tell you, if you were to get strong, your life would change. And if there's one person in the world who could make you strong, it's the guy next door.
Interesting.
So I said, all right. And I felt goaded into going and seeing him. So I did. But the entire walk, which is, literally right next door in the building, I felt like I had been goaded. But I
Yeah.
walked in there anyway. And the next time I hadn't seen Ted in several months. And when I walked in, I saw him and he was shredded. He had probably lost, I don't know, 90, 100 pounds. And he was
Jesus.
he was just
Wow.
sculpted. And I just looked at him before I said anything. And I said, wow, you look a whole lot different than the last time I saw you. And he said, well, I retired from powerlifting. So all the bulk that I had that was an advantage in the powerlifting world,
Yeah.
it's not an advantage anymore. So I got rid of it. And I said, man, you were able to do that fast. And he said, I'm the boss,
Yeah. Yeah.
and immediately I knew that this was not a place for excuses. This was not a place for half stepping. This was going to get serious. And so if I was going to open my mouth one more time, I was going to have to change a lot. And I knew that in that
Yeah.
instant. What I did not know was that he told me to go over there, and I needed to go over there. But she also told him, I have a patient and I need you to take him. And he said, no, thank you. I'm not
Huh.
taking on any athletes right now. I'm, filled the capacity. This isn't the kind of, I'll use the word gym again. but it
Yeah.
isn't a gym where they just sign up members and you go in there and you work out. This is a place where there's curricula that is very specific to what you do, and it's coached the whole time. And you go there very intently. And he didn't have room for anybody else. And she said, I need you to make room for him because he's going to die.
Yeah.
And he's worth the
Wow.
investment, and I need you to do it. So she made
Sounds
him do it.
sounds like it got real quick.
Yeah.
That statement. He's going to die. That is a serious statement to be made about somebody. Her
That's
observ
that's
her
yeah,
observation
that
of
was her
your strength.
observation. And I didn't know this, but what she saw in me, she saw far past all the physical stuff. And she
Yeah.
could tell that all the physical stuff was hanging off of me because of all of emotional, mental, energetic things I had going on. And she saw all the way through it all. And
Yeah.
she sent me over there to get to fixing and said, I need you to take them on. And, and somehow she saw in me better than I saw in myself. So, I'll always be grateful for that. But when I
Well,
walked in there
in
that
her
day,
doctorate, she's trained to see that, John. She's trained to bring it. But what I like about her is her honesty and her directive to you. She lets you know the severity of your situation, and she wasn't going to take no for an answer. When
no,
I
she
interviewed
wasn't.
when I interviewed her last week, I just so enjoyed her attitude, her motivation, but most importantly, John, her discipline. She is a discipline directed woman. And
Yeah,
you picked up on that when she was talking to you, or knowing you and your personality as well as I do. If you would have thought it was a waste of time, you wouldn't have spent the time. That's just
that's
who
true.
you are. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
But I also thought of it as the kind of challenge that I wasn't ready to take on. That was for
I bet.
that place was for power lifters. That place was for
Yeah,
people chasing world records.
yeah,
The people who have been through there have made uh incredible advances in the sport, and they've done remarkable things. And I didn't see that for me.
it wasn't your purpose.
Well, or I was clouded. So
Okay.
when I walked in there, um, Ted started to put me through the paces of an analysis for what I needed. And one of the machines that helped me rehabilitate my back is called the reverse hyper. And he put me on the reverse hyper, and it's the kind of thing where you kind of, it's kind of a chest height table that you support your chest on, and you grab handles, and your feet are dangling below you, and you put weight on, you put some resistance, and then lift your legs behind you. And that's the basic move, but without putting any weight on me, he just said lift your legs behind you. And the first thing was that I had a problem just getting on the table, and i
Yeah.
i didn't know how to properly bend over.
Interesting.
So this was a starting point that was, I was starting from a very deep deficit.
Hmm.
And but so he started me slowly, and she would continue to treat me and guide my progress. And where she could tell that, I wasn't, well, I'm not a power lifter, she would just kind of be there as a backstop to say, hey, I need you to hang in there. You're about to turn a corner. You look at what you've done so far, all of those encouraging things.
Yes.
And in doing so, um, all kinds of things started to fall into place. First thing was, and I know this is kind of moving slowly, but we're about to step on the gas and get to the thrust of the argument here.
Oh, we're doing fine,
Um,
brother. We're doing good.
so one of the things that happened, I think, we start out with some conditioning, and we started doing conditioning, and I was in such bad condition that, of course, we had to start really slowly. But I had been prescribed, here's what we're doing today. And, it was, for me, going pretty hard. And at one point, we were doing conditioning outside in the parking lot of the building in the sun,
Yes.
pushing prowlers around and carrying, farmers' handles and heavy medicine balls and doing all the things that we're doing. And at one point, I walked back inside, and I saw Ted, and I walked up to him and I said, "Hey, Ted, I'm getting dizzy." And he just looked up at me and he said, "You know what rhymes with dizzy?" I
Uh-oh.
didn't stick around to find out. I
Yeah.
turned my ass right back around, went back outside, picked up something heavy, and started walking again.
Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
used that as a turning point moment because that was when I realized that my body was telling me that I wanted to stop and
Yes.
that we were not going to accept that.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and
I get that.
so, yeah, so that was a lesson that every time my body would tell me, as bodies do, that it was, I sure would prefer to uh, stop this discomfort.
Yeah.
Then I would say, well, you don't get to make the decision because I'm the boss.
Yeah.
And I would push through, remembering that I don't know what rhymes with dizzy, and I ain't about to stick around to find
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
By the way, he still hasn't told me, and I still don't ask.
Yeah.
So as we push forward, a couple of life events happened. The first was that at some point, a few months in, the facility got new T-shirts. The training facility is called Diablo Barbell, and we got new Diablo Barbell T-shirts, and I wanted one. So I got in line, and I walked up, and I told Dr. V what I had been trained to tell everybody when I was presented with the opportunity to have a shirt, and that was that I'm an extra large. And she said, "You're not an extra large."
Huh.
And that was not much of anything, but it was really something. And so I changed my shirt size that day. And the next day, unrelated to that, I was on the training facility in my new shirt. And then I heard Ted from across the gym yell, "Hey, John, you're not fat anymore."
Wow.
And that was also a turning point. I knew I had
Yeah.
made some progress.
Yeah.
Um, that kind of thing, just understanding how we see ourselves and then making a decision to change how we see ourselves and
Yes.
taking action upon that decision. And when we take those small actions day after day after day, and we're consistent about those actions, and we are consistent about being true to a chosen identity, that's what change is about.
It becomes a creation of a discipline that becomes so intimate and so personal to oneself to become highly motivated, not only physiologically, but in your spiritual aspect, your tone of acceptance and understanding that this is a change that goes above and beyond uh, the negativity that will come as an offset to those kind of gains that we make in life. And you
Yeah,
mastered that negativity through your discipline and through your faith in yourself, your confidence in yourself to see this through. And that's amazing, John, because so many people fall short of that glory in their self-preservation because they start questioning their self, the inner self, if you will, about how they're going to achieve what may seem to be an immeasurable goal set. But
absolutely.
the discipline becomes formed by the commitment to see it through. I'm so proud of you, bro. I really am. That's not
Thank
an
you.
easy. That's not a little thing. That is a life-changing thing, and you have to
You're
take
right.
that on. Yeah, it is. It is absolutely. You know, Pete and I, we've been outside the wire. We've been exposed to very high, serious, critical events in our life that were life and death moments. And I've been captured. I've been kidnapped and tortured. Pete's been outside the wire as a spy overseas on foreign soil, facing death every time he went out there. But they look like they're really giant things. And I guess in some people's minds they would be. But the day-to-day living that you're bringing into this conversation is what I wanted to focus most on, because those little things, when you add all of those together, brother, those become a pretty big thing. So
Yeah.
the ability to process all of that, all of those segments, put them together under a newly found discipline, a guidance, if you will, of the spiritual essence of that which you are. Some voice starts talking to you inside saying, you can do this, you can get this done. And then by example, you completed this process and you pay it forward through the example of your commitment to what you did. And I love you for it, brother. And I see it in you. It's amazing. It's
I
just
wanted to
amazing.
Thank
jump
you.
in. I
Yeah,
wanted to
please.
jump in and add to this because, so yeah, I saw John go through this process. He and I, we would hit the gym every now and then, but we didn't have that thing that built discipline, And one of my
Yeah.
favorite things that John talks about with Dr. Vitz, and John's struggle to get over that hump, right? Because it's easy to not get up. At what time were you getting up? 4:30 in the morning or something like that?
Yeah.
It was
The
super
discipline. Yeah.
right. And John was struggling. This is John's story. I'm going to tell you Pete's version. He was struggling. Dr. Vitz sees it, and she says, "You see, the new you is like." He'll tell me better than I'd. Like the new you want to meet him? He's right over there. And so John got to pushing.
Wow.
The creeper or whatever it was, whatever the thing was, he had to travel that distance because that new him was just right there. He had to just keep going, and he believed it, and it worked for him. And it's been a remarkable transformation. Another transformation happened in a totally different way because of our ridiculous show that we have. We've met some amazing musicians along the way, the Break It Down show. And John was, I guess you'd call him a failed drummer, right? So we loved music. We would talk about music all the time. We'd be in the car all day long. We'd listen to music when we had the chance to. And it was a big part of what we did. But John wasn't making music unless he was drumming on the car as he drove
on the
car,
dashboard.
right?
Yeah.
On the dashboard, steering wheel. And he was good at it. He was good at that. But we were at this place, this studio in East Oakland called Mindseed, and it was run by a guy he's departed now, but his name was D'Wayne Wiggins. He was one of the Tonys in Tony. And he said, "Hey, why don't you guys stay?" By the way, we went out, probably got some fried chicken or some. Maybe we got wings that day. We came back while these guys were. Yeah. To be fair, we had to eat on the road every day, but we came back because we knew it was a good experience. We wanted more of it, and he met up with this guy Juan, whose his sister is Sheila E. And he's also, his whole family, they're rhythm people. So they play drums, conga.
They're the first family of percussion.
Wow.
And so Juan and John had played a gig many moons before this. And so John's like, "Hey, Juan, we played again." And Juan's like, "Oh, yeah. Maybe he remembered, maybe he didn't." Anyhow,
right.
It's evening. And this band is practicing, got a lot of really successful musicians in it. And I think they're going to do a gig at the Oakland Arena for the Warriors. They're going to sing something at halftime or something like that.
Yeah.
And the drummer is held up in traffic. And we can hear all this because it's all happening in real time. They're like, "Oh, you're stuck in traffic. All right, well, we'll figure it out." And so the band had a little powwow, and they were talking about what they were going to do and everything else. And then Juan points at John and goes, "He plays traps." And so John got like goaded into going, walked over there, and they're talking. And then John's like, "Oh, listen, I've played drums.
I haven't played in 15 years.
As he was hemming it on, the entire band went to their stations, and John was left to decide. With Dizzy.
Johnny on the spot.
But Ron's with Dizzy is get your ass in that ride and play the drums for a guy that John idolized, a guy named Levi Caesar. And from that moment forward, John was a drummer again, and he has not stopped.
Amazing.
His life.
Yeah. You never know when an opportunity presents itself, but that is the discipline and the motivation that we're talking about. You took the step. You sat down on that seat and buying them drums, and you got busy, and that's what it takes.
You're absolutely right. But all of those things involved me making a decision. And
absolutely.
I was so fortunate to have Dr. V in my life. I was so fortunate to be around Pete all the time, because one of the things that we learned just in those little moments, we would put ourselves in these positions because we were never scared to do it. We would put ourselves in these positions where we would go, "What on earth are we doing here? And how do we get ourselves through this thing?" And then we would. And so there was a certain confidence that, that we got from those experiences that led us to starting the Break It Down show, led us to getting all these great guests, and led me into that room. And at that moment where I could decide to play drums for the first time in many, many, many years, or not embarrass myself.
Yes.
Which is what most people would think. Man, I'm here in front of, and these are, Pete kind of breezed past this, but these are heroes of mine. Juan Escovedo, the Escovedo family, his dad is Pete Escovedo, who just turned 90 and sold out 5 nights in a row at Yoshi's.
Wow.
And the most thing that most people know is that his sister is Sheila Ian. She is a remarkable world-class drummer. You never had to use the words "for a girl" with her. Because she's just remarkably world-class. And these people, and Levi, whose band it was we were there to see, he, is a guy whose career I had followed and exactly the people you wouldn't want to embarrass yourself in front of. But we
Yeah.
weren't about the embarrassment. We were about the doing it. So
Yeah.
we got to doing it. And from that moment, not only did I came down off the drum riser. And just to paint the picture for everybody, this place, Mindseed, was the sound stage where a band like Santana could rehearse for a tour, and their
Yeah.
crew can rehearse lighting. This place was huge, and the drum
Wow.
set was on a riser that was probably 10 feet tall. I mean, it
Wow.
was like being on stage at an arena. And so my comeback to the drums was that. And
Wow.
I didn't do anything crazy. I just kept time and don't screw anything up.
Yeah.
And thankfully, it was only a few minutes before the drummer showed up and took over and showed me how it was done. But what I did was I got the job done while he wasn't there. And when I came down off the riser, I remember Pete looked up and went, "Wow, how was that?" And I said, "I think that was my comeback."
Yeah. Yeah. That was the
So
moment.
that was the moment.
That was the moment.
Um, what else happened was that over the subsequent years, Juan and I have become dear friends, and I see him all the time, and I
Yeah.
credit him with that moment.
Yeah. Wonderful.
And yeah, so I give him all kinds of praise for bringing me back, in spite
Yeah.
of the fact that he probably had no idea what he was doing, but he's always been an encouraging guy, and that's what he did for me in that moment.
You know what I like about this point right here, John, is just in your story that you shared today, how it all started by willing to take that step with the doctor that you were introduced to, the chiropractor, and look at where it took you in that journey through her husband, through the people at the studio. All of these things had a purpose. There was a reason that that journey was built that way. But what was most important that I saw in all of this today in this conversation was that inner discipline that became formed and established, a self trust, if you will, that you're able to accomplish that which is necessary to accomplish and not be afraid. If we fall, we pick ourselves up and we become stronger as a result of falling. That's just the way.
Hmm.
But you didn't fall, John. You kept progressing. And as a result of that, somebody today will hear this journey that you're sharing with us, and it's going to impact them in some way. They're not going to fall today. They're going to be able to take that next step, have the confidence of this newly generated discipline, if you will, that you have
Hmm.
conveyed in this. And that's what paying it forward is about. Now,
Yeah.
I do want to add before we close the show today, guys, I do have a message to the world. 3 nights ago, I had a prophetic awakening at 2 o'clock in the morning and immediately reached out to the nation of Kenya. The Archbishop Emmanuel over there, the Archbishop in Kenya, had me in prophetic thought at the same time, requesting for 2 years to get me over there to deliver a message to the multitudes of his people in the nation. Well, 3 nights ago at 2 o'clock in the morning, I was instantly awakened in sleep and immediately connected with the Archbishop over there. And we had a very long conversation. He knew the calling was real. He knew the message was real that I had been asked. So he is gathering all of the pastors in his nation, bringing their entire flocks, their herds, all the followers of them to meet with us, to have me give the prophetic message that had been delivered unto me. Now, this is a man I've known for 5 years, John. And you talk about motivation and discipline and playing it forward. This is how God works and creates and gives us passage and direction to do greater things. Well, when I was talking to Pete about it, Pete said, Hal, he says, you're going to need a set of eyes watching over you. And I can do the cameraman work, and I would be honored to go with you onto this great mission. So we're putting together a GoFundMe account. We're only trying to raise $40,000. Already, Pete, just to let you know, since I made mention this morning, people have been contacting me wanting the GoFundMe. They want to fund and process this vision, this prophetic journey we're going on. And this money and funding that we're going to be raised, this money is going to be going to the widows that have survived the atrocities of that nation that are unknown to the people. Pete and I are going to be documenting this story while we're over there in the nation of Kenya. So we would ask in prayer and in thought that you would consider, once we get the GoFundMe account open, we will post it daily. Please share it to everybody that you've got out there. Let's not only deliver this message of love and compassion for one another on a humanitarian scale, but let's aid and assist some of these people over there that are not as fortunate as we are. The orphanages that are in that country that I've been on Zoom conference, and the children singing to me and worshiping and praising over these last few years have just left such an indelible mark in my heart. And the compassion and the journey and the message that is to be delivered is to love one another as Christ not only loved us, but to show the complexities of why it's so hard to love one another. As you both know, I was assassinated 5 years ago by a contract killer from a cartel out of Mexico, left for dead. And I was put in a medical coma for a day and a half. And the very first thought that flashed to me when I came out was compassion and love for the very man that was sent to kill me. These are the confirmations that God will give us and to deliver unto us. This, John, comes into your story because this is about a discipline that is ingrained within us and a spiritual essence, and we pay these disciplines forward. And look at where God is delivering this. Pete and I are going to go into an area where it requires a written invitation by a governmental agency just to go into that country. And by the way, Pete, your letter is being put together and being approved. But I mean, I love the fact that I've got a former spy that's going to sit there and have eyes in the background when we're in this particular environment, keeping an eye on his brother. So I bring this into this conversation today, and I'm going to be bringing this up in the future episodes until the time comes where the finances are raised and Pete and I are on our way. But John, in closing today, I know you've got a message for the audience. I want you to share the message, what we want to give and deliver to people that don't understand that the small things in life that are negative in our life can surely compound and create a greater negativity. And
this is I think what immediately bonded us was that I knew that in your survival of what had happened to you, that your mission had profoundly changed.
Yes, it did.
And it was almost like you had surrendered that your survival meant anything at all if it weren't for being in service.
Yeah. Yes. It was a crossroads moment, but the real moment of change happened to me October 19th of 1993, 3:30 in the afternoon. I had just been sentenced to 8 years in federal prison, contract put on my life right in a courthouse, and wife serving me divorce papers the day before. And I remember getting back to the holding cell, waiting to catch a Conair flight to where they were sending me, and dropped to my knees. I couldn't take another blow. I was totally
Not
exhausted.
one more.
Yeah. And so I just looked up to the heavens and says, deliver me from this, deliver me. And right then, 2 inmates walked into that, one on each side of me, dropped down on their knees, put hands on me, and we started praying, and the chains broke. And I have never looked back from that instant. And as you know, I completed seminary while in federal prison, went under a bishop in Seattle for 25 years. I've certified hospice chaplain with 26 years in hospice ministry, on and on and on. But at the same time, I was a government contractor jumping off on missions in foreign countries. At the same time that I was pastoring a church. It was just an amazing way that God took all of these things and culminated for his glory, never ours, and took it and played it forward, which is what you're doing in your testimony today, brother. You're paying it forward right now. And I love you. I love you. You know I love you. You can feel that.
I love you too. Yes,
I
absolutely.
know you do. Love you too, Pete.
I will say that, when Pete introduced us, he gave you a preface for sure. He let me know what I was getting myself into and meeting you for the first time. But as soon as we walked in and you welcomed us into your house, it all just completely collapsed into your hospitality. And I knew in that moment that you were a man of service and that you were here with a purpose. And that's the biggest thing, is that when we get in touch with our purpose and our best way that we serve others, that's a big, big thing. But yeah, I was hoping to connect with people, and I thought maybe that what I went through would be a way to connect with people who weren't even quite there yet and who were still kind of sitting in some kind of darkness.
Yes.
And, thinking that I just don't know how to get out. And I would say, that the remarkable things that happened, all the time that I spent with Pete, all the time that I spent with, the people who consistently loved me through all the things that I went through, and in Dr. V's tutelage and Coach Ted's tutelage,
Yes.
they really just gave me a path, but it was up to me to decide that I wanted to be something, in greater service, be somebody who, could achieve for reasons not my own,
Yeah.
and just really just
Yeah.
get the most out of, everything that was around. And the way to that was to see my way to help everybody else understand that those moments in life that we cherish come to us because, we look out for others.
You're doing it right now, brother, as you always do every single day, as I follow your life and your journey. And I always see such joy in your face and joy in the people around you. And this is the love that I'm talking about, that as a result of the confidence that you have instituted within your own self, other people see it. Jesus Christ told us, he said to lead by example. By example means to whatever we weathered in that storm that was conflicting, it took us to that point where now we are the example. And that, John, is who you are. And I tell you that.
Well, I appreciate that, and tying it to the scripture means a lot. I,
It's just
I think
truth.
I kind of neglected to tell everybody though that the victory following all that crisis was not just that I became a drummer again, but I am a super busy drummer
Yeah.
and I play all the time. I also
Yeah.
started a general contracting business. I left an employment situation. Pete and I were, we were working as handymen, beating our bodies into the ground, and we had to make some changes from there.
Yeah.
But um, he also left the Bay Area to shack up with a person I consider to be the second hottest woman in the world. So he did pretty
I love it.
well for all of
Yeah.
that. But
I haven't met her yet, but I'm looking forward to meeting her. I am.
but it meant that handyman business went out the window. But we had to dissolve those practices for our physical betterment anyway. But I did start a general contracting business, and we're doing well. And I'm a super busy drummer, and if I can say so myself, a rock star in my little
Yeah.
town.
Yeah. You
And
are.
it comes from the fact that, at the end of the week, when I'm thinking about all the things I have to do for my business, I can put it all on hold, and I can go play a show where I know I'm going to make a whole lot of people happy. And
Yeah.
I'm proud to say that,
Yeah.
time after time after time, all year long, I've been fortunate that people want to come out and see me because we make people happy.
Yeah. And that's what I was trying to say earlier when I look at your Facebook posts, and folks, you should go to the site. If you look in the background behind that smile on your face, John, everybody's smiling. So
Yeah.
it's evidence that the joy is brought together in unity like that. I love that. I love it. I just love it. Perfect. Well, listen, guys, I think we've got a really good wrap here. John, I can't wait to see you and make your biscuits and gravy again the next time you're up here with Pete. I love you with all of my heart. Thank you for being a
Likewise, I love you
wonderful
too,
friend.
Dr. Bradley.
I just love what you do with your life every day. And look, I can't wipe the smile off my face, brother. Pete, I'll be talking to you real soon regarding the Kenya
Yeah.
trip. There's a lot going on. John, thank you. God bless you and God keep you, and continue, brother, doing what
Thank
you're
you.
doing.
I
The
love you
joy.
too, Pete. I don't tell Pete I love him enough.
Yeah. How can we not love Pete?
All right, enough
All right.
of this.
All right, brothers. Okay, folks. Well, that wraps up another episode today. And I'd like to take this moment to thank each and every one of you for taking your time to catch our show. Now, if you like these shows, I would ask that you would please hit like, share, and subscribe. It's so important to us that we get these messages out, and we understand that these are graphic, almost toxic interviews. But, this is the kind of impact that we feel is needed in order to make sure that people understand the significance of the problems that we are confronted within our own country and around the globe. So I'm going to say at this time that I love you all. God bless you all. Hasta luego, y vaya con Dios, and go Victor.